Today, we're going to dive headfirst into a world that loves to challenge logic, bend reality, and, make our brains do a little backflip. Get ready, because we are exploring the weird and wonderful world of paradoxes.
So let's start with a really simple sentence. I am lying. Now think about it for a sec. Is that statement true or false? Okay, so if it's true, then I must be lying, wait, that means the statement is false. But if the statement is false, that means I am not lying, which makes the statement true. And just like that, boom, our logic is completely stuck in a loop.
And that is the very heart of a paradox. It's an idea that seems perfectly logical on the surface, but ends up tying itself into this impossible knot of contradiction. Or, sometimes, it's the other way around. Something that seems totally impossible, but weirdly enough, turns out to be true. These aren't just frustrating riddles, They're actually really powerful tools that challenge our most basic assumptions about how the world works.
To really get a handle on all this, we're going to break down some of the most famous paradoxes out there, starting with the one that just twisted our brains a minute ago.
So with the liar paradox, you can see how each path leads you straight to its opposite. It's like a snake eating its own tail. This is a classic logical paradox. It's what's called a self-referential statement. And it basically creates a system where logic just breaks down. It kind of shows us that language itself has its limits, and that some sentences just can't be labeled true or false without creating a total mess.
All right, so let's move on from pure logic to something a bit more tangible. But trust me, no less confusing. We're talking about paradoxes that make us question the very idea of identity. I want you to picture this. There's a famous, historic ship preserved in a museum, but over the centuries, its wooden planks start to rot. So every time a plank rots, it's carefully replaced with a brand new, identical one. 100 years go by, and eventually, not a single original plank is left. So here's the question. Is it still the same ship?
This, my friends, is the Ship of Theseus paradox. The change is so gradual, but it really gets to a core question. What actually defines the ship? Is it the materials it's made of, its design, its history? And just to make it even trickier, what if the museum keepers collected all those old original planks and reassembled them? Now you've got two ships. Which one is the real Ship of Theseus? This paradox really forces us to think about what makes anything, or even anyone, the same person over time.
Okay, from philosophical identity, we're going to jump straight into physics, where paradoxes test the fundamental laws of the universe. And this is where things get really weird, especially when we start talking about time travel.
So you've probably heard of this one, the famous grandfather paradox. Imagine you build a time machine, you go back in time, and you stop your grandparents from ever meeting. Well, if they never meet, you're never born. But if you're never born, how could you have possibly gone back in time to stop them in the first place? You've just created a causal loop that erases its own origin. It's a total logical impossibility. And then you've got the twin paradox, which isn't just some fun thought experiment. No, this is a real consequence of Einstein's theory of relativity. Here's how it works. Say one twin stays on Earth, while the other zooms off in a spaceship traveling near the speed of light. For the twin in the spaceship, time itself actually slows down. It's called time dilation. So for them, maybe only a few years go by. But for the twin back on Earth, decades have passed. So when the traveling twin returns, they are literally, physically younger than the sibling they left behind. It sounds like science fiction, but it's a proven scientific fact. You see, sometimes reality itself is the ultimate paradox.
All right, let's bring all this back down to earth for a minute. Paradoxes aren't just for philosophers and physicists. They actually show up all the time in our own minds and in how we deal with each other. Have you ever spent like 30 minutes scrolling through Netflix, just totally overwhelmed, and then you just give up and watch nothing? Well, that is the paradox of choice. We all assume that having more options is better, right? But studies actually show the complete opposite. When the number of choices goes up, our satisfaction with whatever we finally pick actually goes down. It leads to anxiety and regret. It's totally backwards. Or how about this one? It's a strange one. A family is sitting around on a hot afternoon. Someone says, hey, maybe we should drive to Abilene for dinner. Everyone kind of agrees, so they all pile into the car and have this long, hot, miserable trip. On the way back, it comes out that nobody actually wanted to go. Every single person just thought everyone else did, and they didn't want to be the one to disagree. That is the Abilene paradox, this bizarre glitch in group dynamics where a simple failure to communicate leads everyone to do something that nobody wants.
Okay, let's try a quick math puzzle. In a room full of people, how many folks do you need to have a 50-50 chance that at least two of them share a birthday? Now, there are 365 days in a year, so you'd think the number would have to be pretty high, right? Maybe half that, like 180-something? What's your gut telling you?
The answer is just 23. That's it. With only 23 people in a room, it is more likely than not that 2 of them will share a birthday. This is the birthday paradox, and it's a perfect example of how badly our intuition can fail us when it comes to probability. See, we instinctively think about the odds of someone matching our birthday, but the real math is about the odds of any 2 people in that group matching, and that is a much, much easier target to hit.
So, we've looked at logic, identity, time, even our own behavior. But you might be wondering, why spend all this time on these mind-bending puzzles? What's the big deal? Well, ultimately, paradoxes are way more than just brain teasers. They're like signposts. They point to the very edge of what we understand. For scientists and philosophers, a paradox isn't a dead end. It's an opportunity. It's the exact spot where old theories break down and new discoveries are waiting to be made. They force us to sharpen our logic, to question our assumptions, and to think much more deeply about the world and our place in it.
What paradoxes teach us is that the world is far more complex and fascinating than it seems at first glance. They show us that some things can be contradictory and true, all at the same time. Which really just leaves us with one final question for you to think about. What's the biggest paradox in your own life?